just have an overview of the diploma, the work that you're going to do in your workbook, which are here. And this is in case really that you can't get to do a live one on Zoom. You can listen to this to get an overview. You've got your online course. You've got this is the theory course with all the units in it. And you've got one that's for the assignment and practical assessment. So that comes later. So really we look at the theory first. So you're looking down at all the different units and then the different sections in the units there. So if I go back to the gym instructor and the personal trainer workbook, the first page of those workbooks are called assessment plans. You might not have the PT workbook yet, that will come later. But if we look at the gym one to start with, basically you've got different units for different pieces of work. And for each of the 6 units of the gym instructor here, you've got one worksheet per unit. And usually, obviously, people work through them 1 to 6. You might be exempt from anatomy and physiology if you've got a certain degree that we've verified. You may be exempt from this one, but check first. All the worksheets are in this workbook. So if we look, for example, for anatomy and physiology worksheet, just look a bit further along. It starts here after the assessment plan itself. You work through each section and getting the information from the course. So please get the information from the course. If you get the information from anywhere else, we'll know because it's not going to be familiar to us. So really, this is just a straightforward thing. We want to know that you've read and understand the information in the course. So please don't get it from general internet, and please don't use AI because we won't be able to accept it. If your writing is not great or your sentence construction is not great, then do the best you can. It doesn't have to be War and Peace. It just needs to be an indication that you understand and you can answer the question. Okay, so any problems, just let me know. These first 2 units, anatomy, physiology and principles of exercise, are the bigger theory units. Those 2 are significantly longer than the other 4, so don't get too concerned that all the units are going to be this long. These are the 2 really big theory units. And what I would do is send in 4 or 5 questions that you've answered as a sample, just so that you can get those checked, that you're completing them in the right way, that you're completing them at level 2 detail and not doing too much work. You're not doing too little work, for example. So send us some samples in when you've done 4 or 5 of the questions. And when you've answered the questions, you will get them marked, and then you'll get a date here to say that you've completed it, and that will be filled in there. This section here is the date that you planned to complete it. So that might be today, or let's say we're on the 14th of May today. Let's say you want to complete that by the 20th of May. And let's say, you complete it by the 22nd of May, so you were nearly on time. It doesn't matter if you're late, but what I would do is write a little. So let's do that for the 1st of June. We're going to finish the principles of health and well-being by the 1st of June, and then the next one we're going to finish by the 7th of June. So you do yourself a little plan like that. So write those out now, and just rough ones, and then we'll see how they compare. It doesn't matter if you don't stick to the plan, but just have a plan. So you've got 6 worksheets which all follow on. I'll just zip down here. They just follow on all the way down. to the 6th unit, which is the worksheet on instructing professional practice. Then you start and you're on to back to unit 5, which is planning, and it's the assignment. So the assignment is about preparing your client for exercise, so all the preparation, and the preparation of the assignment includes the screening, which is in the form of a PARQ, which is pre-activity readiness questionnaire, client consultation, which is in the form of an interview, and you've got some interview questions here in the workbook, which you will ask your client, and then you will write the answers down in some detail, and you will then record yourself asking the client those questions, trying to be motivational, trying to collect information, trying to show empathy, trying to make your client feel listened to, develop a rapport with the client, etc. And that should be no more than 10 minutes long. The next part of the assignment is a program plan. So that's your program card with all your exercises on it that your client's going to do in one session. And with a gym instructor role, the idea is that you're working with clients as they come and join the gym, and you're just working with them on a one-off. So you sit down, have the consultation, you devise them a plan based on their preferences, and you write that out, and then you show them how to do it, and then off they go. And then they might come back to you or another gym instructor in 6-8 weeks time, something like that, to get a different program, some sort of progression. But the program plan itself is not a progressed program, it's just a session that they will continue to do. Yes, they would increase the resistance on the weight training machines, they might increase the level on the cardio machines, but that, apart from that, there's not going to be any other progression seen on the program card itself. The next part of the practical assignment is the what's called the summative assessment. This is your practical assessment, and this is your hour where you're filming yourself teaching your client the program card exercises. Now, prior to filming a whole hour, there will be a bit of back and forward between me and you, making sure that you're ready for that assignment, that practical assessment there, because we need to know that you're teaching in the way we want to see, that you know how to use all the machines, you know what to say, how to devise different intensities. So if you're doing a warm-up cardio, you need to do that at low level. If you're doing a cardio main section in terms of workout, it needs to be at a higher level. So there will be a bit of activity before you actually do this assessment itself. The final part is you do a self-evaluation form, and that's some questions about your own performance on the practical assessment, and it's called an instructor self-evaluation form. It's all in here. So let's just go back to the beginning of the assignment. So we're looking at the PARQ. I'll take you down to that there. That's your screening form. So you're using a client that can complete this on their own. They can answer the questions. At this stage, if you're not qualified as a gym instructor, and actually you're not qualified even as a personal trainer really to screen people as such, you need to ask a manager to help you screen people. Usually the screening is done by the gym itself. If you've got your own business, then yes, you are dealing with the screening. But if you're working for a company and you're employed by that company, they will deal with the screening. So in terms of this instance, I want you to refer these to me as, let's say, I'll be your manager. If you're not sure, or your client is not sure what these questions are asking, or if the client doesn't know the answer to the question, because we need to make sure that we're getting the right information. So any issues there, just refer back to me for the screening, but otherwise you'll be ticking a yes or no box, and you can read the information about what happens if there's a yes box ticked. If a yes box is ticked, you have to consult a doctor, the GP, before taking exercise. And then you sign it, print your name, and your client also has to sign it there, and you sign it there and date it. And then this section is for the GP if they did get involved. The next part is the client consultation. The first section are some examples of questions that you could ask during your consultation. So just have a look through those. There's a whole list of questions that you could ask. This blank version of the consultation are the actual questions that you're going to be filling in down here. You're going to be filling in this as a report from when you did the consultation. What I would say is make sure you're familiar with all the questions first. Have a look at all those questions there, and have a look back at different ways of asking those questions before you sit down with your client. And if you possibly can, ask your client the question in a way that they're going to understand, it's going to inspire them a bit. And if you can, remember the answer that they're saying, rather than having to type it or write it down as you go. I can understand if you need to, and that's not a problem if you need to write down as you go. If you are writing down as you go, tell your client, I'm not assessing you or making any comments about you. I'm just trying to remember what you're telling me so I can help you best with the exercise that you're aiming to do. So that's your questionnaire for the consultation. It goes through what their current activity is like, what their exercise preferences are, what they maybe don't like about exercise. There's a BMI section. Always ask this as an option. You're not saying that anyone's got to be weighed or be measured or even tell you their weight. You know, you don't have to do this with a client. If they don't want to tell you, that's fine. Just put in a example here so that I can see that you can calculate BMI if you needed to. But allow your client to decline that test. It says here, what are your client's reasons for taking part in an exercise program? What would they like to achieve? What are their barriers? Describe your strategies that will help your client overcome these barriers. Explain how your client will incorporate exercise that they like into their program to strengthen their motivation and adherence. The next section is about incentives and rewards. Then we're looking at how you would encourage your client to take personal responsibility. Next bit is about different behaviour change approaches. Then you've got a section on goals setting. So you're looking at some short, medium and long-term goals based on what their aims are. And then you're looking at how you would review these goals. And that's the end of the consultation there. Next is the program plan itself, the exercise card. There's an example exercise card on the course, so you can just have a look at one of these already filled in, so you can find out the kind of things you're going to be putting for health and safety checks, resources, adaptations, first aider, etc. And also for the different sections. In terms of the sections, The first two parts here are what we call a general warm-up. So part of a general warm-up is a cardiovascular activity, and the next part is some warm-up stretches. I want you to put 5 stretches in here. Have a look at the example program card and you'll see that you can have some static and some dynamic in there. Make sure you're looking at the list of exercises that you're allowed to use in terms of cardio, stretching for warm-up, resistance training and stretching for cool-down. On the online course itself, just make sure that you've looked in your planning section, exercise-based, planning gym-based exercise programs. In there, you'll have a whole list of loads of videos about showing the exercise that you can use. So don't use anything that's not in there. So your warm-up activity is going to be one type of cardio. It's going to be 5 minutes low level. It's going to start off really low. It's going to increase very slightly to the couple of minutes in the middle. Nothing major, about 50% of maximum, nothing too strenuous. And then you would bring the level back down again. 5 stretches will be a combination. Do them all standing for your warm-up. Don't get people kneeling necessarily or sitting or lying on the floor during a warm-up. So do those. If it's a static stretch for a warm-up, a static stretch is going to be held 8 to 10 seconds. So a short held static stretch. The intensity of the stretch is going to be light. It's not going to be to a level where you're feeling any real tightness or even, particularly not discomfort. It's going to be a light held stretch, so the muscles will feel as though it is being stretched, but not too much. If you're doing a dynamic stretch, which is a movement, you're going in and out of a movement. Let's say there's one called a squat to overhead arm reach. You would do about 8 or 10 of those one after the other in a slow and controlled way. So there are your warm-up exercises. Then you come to your main cardio section, and this will be on a second piece of equipment. Usually people for the cardio section do the person's favourite. You're going to be doing a 5-minute gradual increase in heart rate. A middle section where the heart rate or the intensity for the client is steady, and that middle section can be really anything from, I suppose, even 2 minutes to 15 minutes or 20 minutes, let's say, depending on the fitness and history of the client. So you do 5 minutes plus the middle section, plus at the end you do another 5-minute heart rate reduction, which is gradually reducing from the intensity that you held for your main section down to resting at the end. This section here, this column, has got adaptations and regressions in it. This is any adaptations that you can think of that as a reason why the client might not want to do, I don't know, let's say you put down treadmill here. If a client is unsteady on their feet, or they're not used to treadmill, or they don't like treadmill, then you would adapt it. You would change it for something. You would change it for cycle, something like that, or find out what the client's more keen on using. So that's an adaptation. It could be, an adaptation could be that they like the treadmill but they don't like running. So in this case they're going to do incline walking, which can give you the same sort of intensities as running, but they're not actually running, they're doing walking uphill. A regression would be anything that brings the intensity or the difficulty of the exercise down. So you would lower the resistance, you would lower the cadence to decrease the intensity of the exercise. So that's your cardio main section. Let me just go back. The target training zone you're going to work out for your particular client. A client that is really new to exercise might be exercising at something like 50%, 60% of heart rate. Someone who's a bit more experienced and fitter might be working 60% to 70%, and someone who's very fit might be working sort of 70 to 75% there in the middle section. So have a look at the example card to see what the options there are. Then you come to doing your resistance training. You've got 3 sections in this. You've got some with fixed resistance machines. There's 4 there. You've got 4 exercises with free weights and 3 exercises with body weight exercises. So again, have a look at the planning section for the types of exercises you can use for the different muscle groups. We want to have a well-rounded program working all of the muscle groups once and none of the muscle groups twice, because we want to keep the body balanced, so we're working 1 exercise for each. The only time you might double up on a body part or an exercise, a muscle group, is when you add in your press up for your body weight exercise. You may also have a chest exercise for your machine or free weight, and that's okay. It's just that the press up is in the body weight section because that's part of the assessment. So have a look at the example program card as to what exercise machines or free weights you can use, and you want to pick one for chest, you want to pick one for upper back, so like a row type action, a seated row or a single arm bent over row, something like that with a weight. You want to have one for your shoulders, which is a shoulder press, might be with a free weight or a machine. And then you've got a pull down, so a lat pull down to work the lats. And that, again, that usually is on a machine, but you can do a double arm pullover for a lat. You also need to work your hamstrings. Often your hamstrings work in tandem with your glutes on something like a leg press or a split squat, or you might have just a quadricep exercise on a leg extension machine. You want to work hamstrings, which you might work on a seated hamstring machine. If someone is quite experienced, then they might use something like a straight leg deadlift for the free weight. You might put in a calf exercise there. You might put in a bicep and a tricep. You might leave bicep and tricep out depending, because let's say on a chest press you're working your triceps as well. On your seated row you're working your biceps. On your shoulder press you're working your triceps, and on your lat pull down you're also working your biceps. So you may not need a bicep and a tricep exercise that just works that exercise group. Body weight exercise, have a look at your handouts. On the course you've got ab curl, you've got back extension there, because they're the exercises or muscle groups that aren't covered in the machines or free weights. So an abdominal curl on the floor, back extension laying face down on the floor, and a press up. And look at the various progression levels and pick the one that's right for your client. Your reps and sets, these should all be consistent. Every single reps and sets, machine, free weight and body weight, the reps and sets are always going to be consistent. So depending on your client, if they're more beginner, then you're going to be working something like 60%, so 65%, so less than 67% basically. You're working more an endurance level, and with endurance levels your rest can be 30 seconds. If you're working somebody above 67%, then they're going to need a minute's rest between the sets. 2 sets. If they're starting out in endurance, then they're going to be doing something like 12 to 15 reps. And the lower the reps, the heavier you get. So have a look at the example. I think there's 2 choices, one more endurance and one's more towards hypertrophy and more strength-based training. Take those out. Then you've got your cool down stretches. In fact, I'm going to move this. Hopefully yours may need moving. I'm going to put in the cool down cardio first. So after you've done the body weight exercises, you do your cool down cardio first. And that would be a third piece of cardio equipment, and your 5 minutes low level, and then you do 5 stretches, and these can be either standing, kneeling, seated or laying, but if you do them in that order so that it flows better. Draw them out so that we can see how to draw for a client if you need to do that, and then just cut and paste it in here. Take a picture of it, cut and paste it in. At least it says here at least 1 developmental stretch. Now the areas that need developing, i.e. improving flexibility, are usually in humans hip flexors, hamstrings, chest, those kinds of areas are the ones that tight, sometimes quads. So you'd write in, we're going to write which ones are going to be maintenance stretches and which ones are going to be more developmental stretches. The maintenance stretch held for 15 to 20 seconds, just 1 rep on each side, and the developmental stretches you're holding for 30 seconds. Again, 1 rep on each side. The next little part of this to finish the card is to write in some examples of how you would treat these different population groups special in terms of what adaptations and how you can ensure the safety of this kind of group, and give some examples for the disabled section. So you've got sort of 1 or 2 different disabilities that you're going to be looking at. Okay, all that information's on the course. So that's your program card done. I'm not going to cover the practical assessment in any great detail here, but just to say that this is your start of where your practical assessments are, and these are the checklists that we use to look at your skills. So when we come to do this, we'll either do this live again, or you'll listen to another session like this, and we're gonna just explain how you can demonstrate that you are doing all these things while you're teaching. Okay, so it's just to know that there are certain skills that you'll be doing, and then we'll fill all these in when you do your practical assessment itself. We might ask you some questions on that sheet there, we might give you some feedback on that sheet there. And then following that, you'll do your self-evaluation form. So your instructor session evaluation form. How did you do on your practical assessment? And there's an example of this, how you would fill these in. But there's another session that goes into more detail on that. Okay, so that's the overview of the gym. Let's just look at the PT one, which is, I'm not going to go through it in as great detail because we'll do this later on. There'll be another session on this, but it's a similar format. You've got a worksheet for the 5 units: anatomy, physiology, principles of nutrition, planning, delivering, and business. And then you've got a short business assignment, and then you've got the actual personal training assignment here, which is your case study, which is again screening, client consultation, where you do the written and you do an audio of 10 minutes. Then you do your client program itself. Your program for the personal trainer is an 8-week plan rather than just a single session like the gym was. It's an 8-week plan. It's called a progressive program, so that you are making sure that you know how to plan for progression, how you know how to progress with your client. So we'll do another session on this. Then you do your practical assessment, which is an hour, and then another instructor evaluation in a similar way to that. Just going to make those a bit more level up there. That's it. So yeah, you do your video and then you do your questions. So that's the overview for your gym mainly. So that starts your diploma off for the 6 units to start with. Any questions, just get in touch. Thank you.